Hi, I'm Kanika Roy, CEO and founder of Pipeline. Welcome to this week's edition of the Brave Souls Q&A. Let's jump into today's question. You asked, is the Great Resignation tipping the balance of power in favor of women? The Great Resignation might be altering the power dynamic in the workforce, but to say it's tipping the balance of power in favor of women would be an overstatement. While we are seeing record-breaking wage and benefit growth across the country, a hot labor market isn't enough to tip the balance of power in favor of women and other underrepresented employees, despite what mainstream economic theories say. There are still power imbalances that prevent women and really our economy at large from prospering. Let's walk through 5 examples of power imbalances. 1. Information asymmetries. How are promotions awarded? How is pay determined? How is employee conduct handled? How is performance assessed? Many companies keep these decisions opaque. Information asymmetry breeds bias, and bias leads to equity gaps in the employee life cycle. But workers have a hard time proving inequitable treatment because they lack access to company data. It's a vicious cycle. 2. Forced arbitration. The use of arbitration in employee contracts increased 17% between 2019 and 2020. Today, nearly 40% of U.S. employees are covered by binding arbitration clauses in their employee agreements, which effectively silence workers in the face of inequity. 3. Retaliation. The risk of retaliation also silences workers from speaking up in the face of inequity. Up to 99.8% of all sexual harassment survivors don't report their cases out of fear of retaliation. And 64% of people who filed sexual harassment charges lost their jobs after filing the complaint. 4. Occupational inequity. The average pay within an occupational category is inversely related to the percentage of women in that occupation. This relationship holds even after controlling for factors such as education and experience. We call this the devaluation effect. 5. Reporting laws. The responsibility to report inequity falls on the shoulder of workers. In other words, the subjects of the inequity are responsible for fixing a system they didn't break. Not only is this wrong, but information asymmetry and fear of retaliation complicate the process of reporting inequity. So while the Great Resignation might be changing the playing field for some workers, it won't remove structural barriers that prevent equitable participation in the labor force. We need a combination of public policy and corporate commitment to removing those barriers. They do not remove themselves. That's all for today. Thank you for tuning in. If you found this video helpful, share it with someone who would also find value from it. Until next week, be brave.